How's it going, pipe smokers? Jason here. As you can tell, I still haven't really come up with a channel name, so I've still got my government name, if you will, on there. I haven't been able to give a lot of thought to it. It's not something I'm taking super serious at the moment, having a channel name, but I'd like to put something on there at some point in time. But I'm sitting out here on the front porch, smoking my pipe, just enjoying the nice weather after a couple of days of hard work out of town. And figured I'd make a video. I don't know what the audio will be like, being out here. There's cars going by and such. I am in a residential neighborhood, so it is fairly quiet, but I'm sure y'all might hear some dogs barking or, kids in the background or whatever. But the main point of the video is I just wanted to talk a little bit and, give you guys maybe a little bit of a background, my own background with pipe smoking and just tobacco in general, my love for tobacco. Before we get started, I am smoking my P6 Dagner pipe. I think this was released back in 2016. If I remember correctly, this is the Poker. And in it, I am smoking some tobacco that Chad, Lethal Precision, sent me. And it is his own mixture that he makes called Champ Ferguson. So he sent me about a bowl's worth, which I've got in here now. And figured I'd smoke it while I make a video. So my background with tobacco in general really began when I was a small child, probably. My great-grandfather, who I just called Granddaddy, who is my mother's grandfather, I don't think I've ever seen that man without a pipe, a cigar, or a cigarette in his hand. Growing up, he had one of the three with him at all times. And I remember going to my grandparents' home and just instantly being hit with that beautiful aroma of cigar and pipe smoke inside their house. And even as a kid, it just smelled incredible. And I remember, come Christmas time, my parents and I would go to a local cigar shop or a local pipe shop, and we would often get him a box of cigars or a bit of pipe tobacco for Christmas as a gift. And I remember walking into the cigar shop or the pipe shop and just loving the smell of the place. You could smell the cedar of the humidor and the aroma of pipe and cigar smoke in the shop, and just seeing the beautiful displays of pipes and pipe tobacco and cigars. And it's just one of those memories that stuck with me as a kid. It was just ingrained in me. And I always attributed, even like years later growing up, even after my granddaddy died, anytime I smelled a cigar or a pipe, it instantly brought back memories of my granddaddy and going into his home and smelling it. And, when I would give him a hug and just smelling the mixture of aftershave and pipe or cigar smoke on him, and going into the cigar shops and whatnot, it just always took me back to those times. And I didn't have, I guess, the maturity or the foresight, what have you, as a teenager and as a young man to truly appreciate fine cigars and a good pipe blend or anything. I didn't know the difference. So when I wanted to try cigars, I was probably 16, 17 years old. Me and a buddy of mine would go to the gas station and buy peach white owls. Absolutely terrible cigars looking back. But at the time, I mean, my buddy and I, we thought we were something, just 16, 17 years old, driving around in his or my car and, cruising or whatever on a Friday or Saturday night, and we're smoking peach white owls. Every once in a while, I would get my hands on a pack of Philly blunts, I believe they were called. They come in like a little, I think a 5-pack. And you could usually get them at like Walgreens or CVS or something like that back in the day. And obviously not very good cigars by any means. I don't even know if you could classify them as cigars. But we thought we were something. And but that only lasted, I'd say, about a year or so. Kind of got away from it, and didn't really touch another cigar until I was, I guess, in my mid-20s. My ex-wife and I happened to be in a mall, and they had a little cigar shop in there, and on a whim, I decided to pick up a cigar. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I just picked out a random cigar out of the humidor. I didn't have a proper lighter, a proper cutter. I knew nothing. There was no guidance at the cigar shop, no nothing. But I took it home, sat out on the back porch, bit the end off of it, like a savage. Probably lit it with a Bic lighter. Got maybe a quarter of the way through it and decided it just wasn't for me. So I threw it away. Didn't touch another one. Fast forward, I'd say maybe about 3 years. My ex-wife and I, we separated. And around that same time, I happened to run into an old buddy of mine that I went to high school with. And he and I started hanging out a little bit, and because when my ex-wife and I separated, I went into a little bit of depression, kind of isolated myself and whatnot. He was kind of helping me get out of the house a little bit. We'd go and hang out and go do stuff. And it just so happened that around that same time, his stepfather passed away. And amongst the things that his stepfather left behind for him was a box of cigars. And it was a box of Avo Classic number 2s. And I was hanging out with my buddy at his house one day, and he pulls out this box of cigars, and he asked me, he goes, "Hey man, I'm going to smoke one of these cigars that my stepfather left behind for me. Do you want to smoke one with me?" And I told him, I'm not really into cigars. It's not really my jam. He's like, just smoke one with me, just in the memory of my father. You're going through a hard time. I'm going through a hard time. Let's just smoke one together and just kind of relax. I was like, you know what? Okay, let's do that. And so we sat down and we lit up these cigars. He had a proper cutter, a proper lighter, and all this stuff. And we sat down and lit them up and just really enjoyed ourselves. And for whatever reason, in that moment, I fell in love, truly fell in love with cigars for the first time. Other than the nostalgic memories of my granddaddy. So I think I went out the next day, a couple days later, to a local cigar shop and picked up a few cigars for myself, and they were all Avo Classic number twos. That's what I picked up for myself because that's what I knew and that's what I liked. And so I started. That's really what began my cigar smoking journey. And for the most part, I started with a lot of Connecticut shade cigars, very mild for the most part. And over time, started graduating into more medium body, more full body cigars. And that was in 2013. My ex-wife and I separated in 2013, so it was at that time where that happened. Fast forward to 2015, I started working in one of the local cigar shops that I frequented. I was actually working construction during most of that time and ended up quitting that job hastily. And I went to the cigar shop after I quit my job at the construction job and I was talking to the owner, just buying a couple cigars. And it just so happened that he needed some extra help. So he brought me on. And I ended up staying at that job for about 5 years, up until 2020. I'm doing a lot of rambling here. I'm not quite used to this whole YouTube thing just yet and gathering my thoughts properly, so just bear with me. I'm just enjoying my pipe and talking about some history here. But I ended up getting COVID pretty bad during 2020, and I was on my back, basically bedridden for 10 months with COVID during 2020. So unfortunately, I ended up losing the cigar shop job. But during my time at the cigar shop, I was doing a lot of research, just Google and, reading books and articles and talking with different company reps that would come in and occasionally get to talk with owners and blenders and stuff and just trying all the cigars I possibly could and just trying to be the best that I could be at what I was doing, running a cigar shop. And I just developed a real passion for it during that time. And it was also during that time that one of our reps, I believe he was a broker, he handled several different brands. But if I remember correctly, one of the brands that he represented was fourth generation pipe tobacco. And occasionally the reps would bring the owners or the blenders with them on like a shop tour and just bring them to the different shops that carry their products and stuff like that. And we would do little events and stuff like that with them. Well, this particular rep, I believe it was Eric Stokeby he had with him at one time. And we're sitting in the lounge and we're talking and I'm smoking a cigar and we got on the subject about pipes, obviously, considering who Eric Stokeby is. And I mentioned that I had never really smoked a pipe before. I never really tried it, but I told him about my fond memories of my granddaddy. Well, the rep, excused himself about in the middle of the conversation and went outside to his vehicle. Well, he comes back in and he walks up to me and he hands me a pipe and a tin of fourth generation tobacco, a little like Bic style lighter where the end of it kind of like is movable, it bends, so it's more like a disposable pipe lighter, I suppose, and a check tool, like a multi-tool for pipes. He hands it to me and says, well, this is my gift to you to, start your journey into pipes to see if you like it. And I was absolutely floored. I was blown away by his generosity. And they kind of showed me how to pack it, how to tamp it, and how to light it and stuff. And that did start my journey into pipes. And that led me to, back then in that time frame, making friends with a lot of guys on here on YouTube and Instagram and the pipe and cigar community. That's how I ended up meeting Jason Dagner. Hung out with him a few times when I've gone down to Florida. It's been a number of years since we've spoke, but hung out a few times back then. And really it's just evolved over time. Just my love and my appreciation for tobacco in general, really, not just pipes and cigars. Because, as I mentioned in one of my other videos, I had some health issues that didn't allow me to smoke. So I didn't touch pipes or cigars for about 3 or 4 years. But ever since I was 13, I've always dipped. Like dipping tobacco, Grizzly, Copenhagen, Skull, stuff like that, which I still do to this day. And I've always loved a good chewing tobacco as well. I don't chew that often. Normally my chewing tobacco is when I'm fishing or out in the woods or out in the yard or something. But other than cigars and pipes, the tobacco that I appreciate and love the most, probably other than the cigars, is Swedish snus. So this is the one that I use more often than not. I don't know how to pronounce this properly. I call it etan, but it's a Swedish snus, and it's just little pouches. It's little pouches there, and it goes in the upper lip. There's no juice or anything, so you don't have to spit the way you do with chewing tobacco or dip. But beautiful, great flavor, and gets you that nice little nicotine fix throughout the day. The only bad thing about it is I do have to order it from Sweden. It's a little bit harder to find here in America. I'm sure some places do carry it, but not where I'm at. But for the most, and I used to do a little bit of nasal snuff as well. I still absolutely love nasal snuff, but unfortunately I've got a lot of sinus issues, and I've broken my nose a number of times, so I've developed issues because of that. And the nasal snuff would often irritate my sinus issues, so I've had to give it up. As much as I didn't want to, because I do love it. But, sacrifices must be made. I still get to enjoy my occasional chew. I still get to enjoy my Swedish snus, my pipes, my cigars. And while addiction is a real thing, and we ought to have temperance and self-control, I know that many would argue my point here, and many have argued my point here. It is my personal belief that tobacco itself is a gift from God for us to enjoy responsibly, to be sure. But I do believe it is a gift for us to enjoy, and I do enjoy it. And I enjoy my pipes, I enjoy my cigars, I enjoy my snus, all to the glory of God, the Father in heaven. And that is my personal belief, and I stand by it. But there's much more that I could probably say about my love and appreciation for all things tobacco. But this video is running right at 20 minutes now. I have rambled far too long. If you have watched this far, I'm sorry for wasting your time, but I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching this video. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot. I look forward to making future videos. I look forward to watching more of you guys' videos. And while I didn't do a great job at keeping my pipe lit, because I was talking too much, I'm going to sit here and just enjoy the peace and quiet. and smoke the rest of this pipe. And Chad, Lethal Precision, thank you so much for the tobacco that you sent me. Your mixture here, I've smoked probably a quarter bowl already. It's beautiful, man. It's really beautiful. It's nice. Tastes like there's a little bit of Cavendish in there, maybe. I could be wrong, but I get a touch of sweetness and a bit of campfire smokiness. So if you want to send me a message and maybe tell me a little bit more about this blend or what went into it, man, I'd love to know, because the balance of the sweet and smoky that I'm getting is really nice. So anyway, I'm going to call it an end here. You guys have a beautiful rest of your day. Sweet smokes. Later.